Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. The world reacting tonight to the most closely watched and scrutinized press conference of President Biden's political career. It comes 2 weeks to the day after the presidential debate that put his political future in doubt.
The stakes are high as he has faced calls to drop out of the race, and tonight was seen as crucial to convincing his party and the American people that he is fit to be president, even as he acknowledges that he needs to make changes.
It'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about.
Late today, Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton called on the president to drop out, saying in part, the Democratic Party must have a nominee who can effectively make the case against Trump and have the confidence of the American people to handle the rigors of the hardest job on the planet for the next 4 years. For the sake of American democracy, I believe it's time for the president to step aside as our nominee, end quote.
So the big question tonight, did the president do enough to save his candidacy? 12 News political journalist Bram Resnick, along with 2 Arizona political insiders, joining us now in studio to break down the president's performance. Hey, Bram.
Yeah, thanks, Caribe. And the fact this hour-long news conference was carried live on networks and cable shows the impact of President Biden's disastrous debate 2 weeks ago and questions that won't go away about his fitness for office. Did the news conference answer those questions? I'm joined by Chuck Coughlin of High Ground Public Affairs. He's a registered independent. And Carl Gentles, a Democrat and a Biden delegate. He leads the Gentles Agency. Good to see you again. Before we get to the start of that news conference, which is already on social media, give us your overall impression of how this went for the president.
I think he did well. I mean, it's his favorite subject, right? It's foreign affairs, and he did substantially well with the topic matter because he's comfortable with it. But I don't think there's any question about the diminution of his capabilities that was demonstrated a couple of weeks ago. And I don't think that this overcomes that, but he performed well.
You think he performed well? Because my take was that as a transcript, this will read well. As a performance, maybe he appeared to be 81 years old.
Well, I think the transcript always reads better than in real life. He performed well, he did. He did a good job. He was talking about a subject mostly that he knows well. He is well versed in foreign policy. And if you think about the substance of what he said, I mean, he bounced around and talked about an awful lot of a number of different countries and was really articulate about those issues. And so that's what people need to pay attention to and what he can do on the world stage. And I think he's actually made people a little bit more comfortable, at least foreign policy or foreign leaders, on those issues, because I think that those people that are in the audience, they're really concerned about a Trump presidency.
Well, let's look at the first thing, probably the one thing they're going to remember from the debate, which happens quite often. The president didn't get off to a good start. He referred to Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump. Take a listen.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
That's kind of a head slapper.
Well, it is what it is. He's 81 years old. I don't think this issue is not going to go away. It's going to continue to plague him throughout, despite I thought he did an adequate job, but he does come across as an 81-year-old gentleman. It's not the guy that was around during the vice presidency with Obama. It's not the guy that I think was there 4 years ago.
And he clearly got the message from Democrats like Governor Katie Hobbs, who are saying he's got to answer voters' questions and assure them that he's up to the task. Let's take a listen to what he said about that.
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there.
It's important I allay fears by letting them see me out there. Is that going to work if voters keep seeing this Joe Biden?
Well, I thought he did a great job. So if they keep seeing this Joe Biden, I think he's going to do fine. And he does need to get out and be far more effective in allaying people's fears. What you saw on the Gaffes, I mean, how many times have you seen Joe Biden over the last 25 years in a press conference? That is the way Joe Biden speaks. And so what you know is when he slows down, he does a lot better because he does have a speech issue. So I think the more important question is on the substance of what he's talking about. And the substance of what he's talking about is what the voters need to hear, not the fact that he might have stumbled over a word or two.
But a side-by-side with Donald Trump, can he prosecute the case? Can this Joe Biden prosecute the case?
I think what happened a week ago and what will continue to happen from now on, that performance and that doubt, you can't unsee that. And it is very difficult for him to be able to try to get on offense while that is plaguing him. And I think that's something that I think his inner circle has to acknowledge and have that conversation with him. And I don't think they're really having that yet. Maybe over the weekend they will have that.
Listen to this Q&A. He was asked whether he would step aside if polls showed Kamala Harris would do better against Donald Trump. Let's listen.
You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
No poll says that he can't win, he says in a whisper. You agree with that?
Look, the more time the president spends on answering those questions, the less time he's going to spend on prosecuting his campaign.
Okay.
And that's my point.
But he's going to have
got to get past that conversation, and they've got to just bridge past that and keep moving because they got a campaign to run and a campaign to win in the next 4 months.
He wants to get by the question. It's not going to go away. It's going to continue to plague him. And he's got a speech on Monday in Texas at LBJ's library on the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Movement. What an awesome opportunity to put a bow on this and say, we have a lot more to do. The Democratic Party has done a lot for our country. I would hope he would use that opportunity to move the conversation along.
Also, first night of the Republican convention,
Which
so
is a
timing not too bad there.
Crush it.
All right, Mark?
My big question is, if nothing major happens between now and the convention, how much of a rodeo is that going to be?
The Democratic convention, it would be fairly well scripted. If this is what's going to go on, it's going to be very well scripted and tight. If it doesn't go on, it's a free rodeo. It's going to be sort of an exercise in free democracy, and I think it'd be fascinating and it'd be a ratings crusher.
Carl Gentles, you're a delegate. Are you okay with that?
Look, I think the delegates are going to stick with Biden. I really do. I think it's going to be quite the interesting convention with no question. But I think at the end of the day, the delegates are going to stick with them.
Stick with Biden. Carl Gentles, Chuck Coughlin, thanks so much.
Thanks, Bram.
Mark, Caribe?
All
Great stuff, guys.
Yeah, great discussion. And coming up on Monday, NBC's Lester Holt sits down with President Joe Biden in an exclusive one-on-one interview. We will bring you a preview of the sit-down on NBC Nightly News, and then a full unedited interview will be brought to you in prime time. That's a special at 5:30 Arizona time on both NBC and NBC News Now.